Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for today's video. Today I'm going to be going through the books that I read in June. This one is going to be a little bit quicker and shorter than the other wrap-ups I've done for a few reasons. One, I didn't read that much. I read 7 books, which isn't the lowest I've read for the year, but it's the lowest amount of pages I have read for the year. Most of the books that I read were less than 300 pages, so didn't actually get many pages read. Number 2, I spoke about a few of these at length in my Kindle Unlimited thriller reading vlog, so if you want to hear more of my thoughts on those, you can go and check that vlog out. I'll link it down below. And also, I'm currently filming this on my lunch break, so I have a time deadline. I don't have long to film this, so we're going to try and do some quick fire reviews. We shall see. The first book that I'm going to talk to you about is called The Boy Who Didn't Want to Die by Peter Lantos. And the reason I'm going to talk about this first is because I haven't actually given this one a rating. I'm not sure how to go about rating a book like this because first of all, it's a middle grade book, and so obviously I am not the intended audience for this book. And secondly, it's a somewhat fictionalised version of Peter Lantos's childhood. So he is Hungarian and he was a child during World War II, and he is also Jewish. And this kind of goes through the story of him going to the concentration camps and everything that went on with his family and just all the things that happened to him. And I would say it's very good for the age group that it's obviously written for. I would say it's actually quite an educational book, and yeah, definitely think it is a good read for the intended audience. And I actually think that they're starting to teach this one in some schools in the UK, which I think is really good. So yeah, I thought it was really good. I just don't know how to rate it. It was sad, as you can imagine a story like this would be, but yeah, I haven't given it a rating because I just don't know how to go about it, but I did like it, I will say that. Other than that, I'm going to go through the remaining 6 books in the order of lowest rated to highest rated. So the first one is going to be one that I already spoke about in the thriller vlog, and it is The Quarry Girl by Jess Lowry. And this, or Lowry, I still don't know how to pronounce her surname, and I did the same thing in that previous vlog. I apologise. This is, I'd say, your standard missing girls thriller. I would actually say this one's written as a YA. I've not seen anything to suggest that it is a YA, but to me it read that way. Basically, we are following these girls in this town and they're going missing, and our main character Heather is essentially trying to figure out what's going on. I don't want to say too much about this one because I don't want to spoil it, but there are really good themes of friendship in here, and I feel like it was paced really well, and I did like the characters. However, I did feel that certain plot points were a bit obvious and I found them quite predictable. But saying that, there are still quite a few characters in here that you could suspect, so you may not feel the same way as I do, so I would still definitely recommend it. But as I said before, I don't want to talk about this one too much because I've already spoken about it in that vlog, so I will direct you there if you would like to see my full thoughts as I read through the book. Next is another book from that same video, and it is Don't Let Her Stay, and this one is by Nicola Sanders. And this one is about this woman called Joanne, and she is living with her husband and their newborn baby, and her husband Richard's daughter Chloe is moving in with them, and this one is essentially a gaslighty domestic thriller. It was so irritating, but it really did have the desired effect. As I kept saying in that vlog, this stepdaughter of Joanne's is horrendous. She's awful, and you just want to punch her in the face while you're reading it, to be honest. She's just awful, and she was frustrating me so much. But there's so many twists and turns in this that all is not as it seems, I will say. And yeah, the twists just kept coming and coming right up until the end. So I would definitely recommend this one as well. The writing wasn't my favourite, as I mentioned in that vlog, but I could look past that as the story went on because I found it very compelling and I really wanted to know how it ended. But another thing that I realised as I was doing that vlog was that in my thrillers I actually prefer them to be a bit more surprising and unpredictable than I do value the writing of them, because as I mentioned in that video, I would say the Quarry Girls was actually written better than Don't Let Her Stay, but I preferred Don't Let Her Stay just a little bit more because it had that unpredictability and shocked me just a little bit. So that's why I've rated this one a little bit higher, even though the writing wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. But again, as I said for the previous book, check out that reading vlog to see more of my thoughts on that book. Next up, another 3.5. I just realised I didn't even say the ratings for those two books. Quarry Girl's got a 3-star, Don't Let Her Stay got a 3.5-star. The next 3.5-star is Assembly by Natasha Brown. This one I would say is actually quite a plotless novella. It's literally 100 pages, so I need to be mindful of what I'm saying because I don't want to spoil anything, but it is pretty plotless. I would say this is definitely more character driven / stream of consciousness, kind of. This one is essentially about this woman and her experiences as a black woman living in the UK, and it goes through all the microaggressions and the racism that she faces. And it's so interesting because the things that this woman has to deal with and the people that she has to deal with are just, there was a lot of the people just so idiotic, and they just wound me up so much. But they were written in such a way that you know these people in real life, like you can definitely pinpoint certain individuals in your real life. An example that I will give is that in the workplace, the main character is given a promotion, and she's even told by the employer that she's been given the promotion because they want to have a more diverse workplace. So it just made it incredibly awkward. And then there are other people that she works alongside that even say to her as well, I know that the reason why you got this job was because you're a black woman and they want to show that they're diverse. I would have got this position if blah blah blah. Like all these people basically just putting her down, and so interesting. Yeah, it's definitely a difficult one to talk about. As I said, it's 100 pages, but that's the kind of vein that it goes through. But there's all sorts of different scenarios, and it doesn't necessarily follow one kind of timeline. It's just kind of sort of like little snippets, I would say, of her life and the things that she has to put up with, essentially, and the idiotic, irritating people that are in her life. It was very interesting and very subtle as well, I would actually say. So that's what made it even more intriguing. I will say though, the reason why I didn't rate it any higher was because it is so short. I wanted more, to be honest, and there were certain things that I wanted more from, not just the whole book in general, but certain aspects of this book. I wanted to find out what happened and how things turned out in the long run, but we never got there because it's obviously so short. There's only so much you can fit into a 100-page book, but I definitely would recommend it, and I do think it's extremely interesting, as I have been saying. But yeah, this one was a 3.5 for me. Next up, we are moving on to the only 4-star that I gave this month, and it was The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. This was the first Tessa Dare book that I have read, and I loved it, and I will definitely be reading more. I decided to pick this one up because I was watching the Queen Charlotte Bridgerton series, which I still haven't even finished, but I started watching that and decided that I wanted to read a historical romance, and thought that I may as well dip my toe into what Tessa Dare has to offer, and I was not disappointed. It was so good. This one follows this woman called Emma, and she is a seamstress, and she ends up getting in this deal with this duke who he's been burnt in the past, so he has a lot of scars on his body, and he essentially fears rejection because of it. He was engaged to be married to someone else, and ultimately because of his scars, she ends up leaving him. So it's made him extremely insecure and paranoid, but he kind of comes to the conclusion that the only way he's going to find a wife is to kind of make this deal, and he chooses Emma to make this deal with, essentially that they will get married and she will produce an heir, and eventually she will get given her own house in the country and essentially be given experiences that she never would have had otherwise, because she is not rich, she's just a seamstress, and it's an opportunity she couldn't really turn down. So they set up this deal, and it's kind of like a marriage of convenience, but obviously they end up falling in love with each other throughout the process, and it was so cute. I loved these characters together. I really liked how their relationship grew. It's not enemies to lovers at all. It's not, I wouldn't even really say it's hate to love. I would say it's like annoyance to love. It's definitely like a grumpy sunshine, with our main character Emma being the sunshine and the Duke definitely being a grump. He was so grumpy throughout this, but I loved it so much. It was so good, and I really liked the side characters, so I'm definitely going to read more from this series, because I know that the side characters that I really liked are featured in the next books, like they're focused on those characters. So I'm so excited to carry on with this series. Next up is the 4.5 star book that I read this month, and it is Transcendent Kingdom by Yar Jessie, and this was incredible. I found it quite a slow read, to be honest. It took me a while to get through, bearing in mind I think it's only just over 250 pages. I did take my time reading this one, but I feel like a book like this, you need to take your time with it. It is essentially following this girl, Gifty, and she is a scientist, and she grew up in a religious household, and a lot of this book is her kind of grappling between what she was taught growing up and this religion versus science, which both are extremely important aspects of her life, and it's just kind of her trying to figure out what side she leans on or what she believes. And there's also a lot of grief in here, a lot of family dynamics, also a lot of talk about mental health, because Gifty's mum is really suffering with her mental health, and Gifty really doesn't know how to help, and it was so sad and really quite raw reading this. It is devastating in some parts. This book made me cry. The last sentence made me shed a tear. I was like kind of tearing up throughout, but then as I read that last line, I started to cry because it was so good. Gifty's I just felt so sorry for Gifty. She was just trying to help everyone, and she kind of needed help herself. She needed someone to be there for her, but it seemed to be that she was there for everyone else. I loved it so much. The only reason why I didn't give this one a 5-star was because I didn't quite enjoy it as much as Homegoing by Yar Jessie, which is one of the best books that I've ever read. I find it absolutely incredible, but I don't know whether I should do that, whether I should compare authors' works among each other when this is probably better than some 5 stars that I've read, but because I'm comparing it to Yar Jessie's other book, I'm rating it lower. I'm not sure whether I should up the rating, because I did really love it. Unsure on that one. Watch this space, because by the end of the year this might have gone up to 5 stars. We shall see. The final book that I'm here to talk to you about is The Good Lie by A.R. Torre. This is the only book that I rated 5 stars this month, and it's another one that I spoke about and read in my thriller reading vlog that I posted this month, and it was incredible. As I said in that vlog, if you are interested in criminal or forensic psychology, you should definitely pick this book up. It is fantastic. It's following this psychiatrist, and she's essentially given the opportunity to profile this serial killer and figure out whether the man that has, the main suspect, the man that has been arrested, whether he fits her profile or not. And essentially it kind of rides on her as to whether this man goes free or not. And it's so interesting. We have the lawyer in this case whose son was killed by this serial killer, so the stakes are extremely high, and he takes on this psychiatrist to figure out what's going on. There are so many other characters in here that I found so interesting, and we have various different perspectives that I won't go into because I don't want to spoil a single thing about this book, and I think you should go in not knowing much at all. But as I have said with the other 2 books that I read in that vlog, please check out that vlog if you would like to know some more in-depth thoughts of mine, because I absolutely loved this one. I thought it was outstanding. Finally, I need to pull a book out of my TBR jar. Now, last month I pulled out, I can't remember which, CJ Tudor. Was it The Chalk Man? I know it was a CJ Tudor book. I'll go back and double check. And I didn't get to it, unfortunately. I just ran out of time, or should I say I didn't make time, because as I said before, I didn't read too much in June, and I feel like it's my own fault. So that one will be getting unhauled, but let's try again and see what I am going to hopefully be reading in July. This one. Ooh. I don't know if this is going to be upside down. Finding Me by Viola Davis. I have read that one, so we're going to have to pull it out again. I feel like I dropped one. I did. Pop that back in. Right, let's pick another. I've not actually had to, so last month I pulled out Transcendent Kingdom first, and I was actually reading that at the time, but I've not pulled out one that I've actually read before. Let's see what that one is. The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. Okay, I'm excited. That excites me. I have got some quite big reading plans for July, and I don't know whether I'm biting off more than I can chew, but that could fit really well into my reading plans for the month, so I will definitely be getting to that one, and yeah, I'm very excited. So that is it for this video. That is it from me today. If you liked this video, I would love it if you could like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.